Imagine living in a world where gold could not save you, where land meant nothing without one simple thing: bread. In medieval life, bread was not comfort food, it was survival. Every morning began with the question of bread. Every night ended with the fear of losing it. Families measured safety not by wealth, but by how much grain remained in storage. When bread was plentiful, life moved forward. When it disappeared, entire communities collapsed. This is the story of how a single ordinary food became the backbone of medieval life, controlling hunger, power, faith, and survival itself. The medieval world was built on uncertainty. Life moved slowly, but danger was always close. Most people did not live in cities of stone and wealth. They lived in small villages surrounded by fields, forests, and open land. Their survival depended almost entirely on nature. There were no guarantees, no reserves, and no safety nets. Hunger was not an occasional problem, it was a constant presence. Medieval people did not ask what they would eat tomorrow, they asked if they would eat at all. Food shortages were common. A single failed harvest could mean months of suffering. A cold winter or heavy rain could destroy crops. War could burn fields. Disease could weaken farmers. And when crops failed, hunger followed quickly. In this world, hunger shaped every decision. People woke up thinking about food. They worked all day to secure it. They feared losing it. Hunger was not just a physical pain, it controlled emotions, traditions, and even beliefs. Bread emerged as the most reliable answer to this fear. Unlike meat, which required animals and preservation, or vegetables which spoiled quickly, bread could be made from grain that lasted for months. Grain could be stored, protected, and rationed. It could survive long winters and uncertain seasons. This made bread more than food. It became security. For medieval families, bread represented stability in an unstable world. A household with bread could survive. A household without it faced despair. Hunger also carried social meaning. The poor were often defined by the kind of bread they ate. Dark, coarse bread made from rye or barley was common among peasants. White bread, made from finely ground wheat, was reserved for the wealthy. But regardless of status, everyone depended on bread. Even nobles understood this truth. Their wealth meant little if grain stores ran empty. Castles could fall, armies could weaken, and kingdoms could collapse when bread was no longer available. In medieval thinking, hunger was not seen as a temporary discomfort. It was seen as a test of endurance, faith, and fate. Bread stood at the center of that test. It was the thin line between survival and collapse. Bread dominated medieval diets because grain dominated medieval agriculture. Fields of wheat, rye, and barley stretched across Europe. These crops were chosen not for taste, but for survival. Grain was resilient. It could grow in poor soil. It could survive colder climates. It could be harvested in large quantities and stored for long periods. Compared to other foods, grain was dependable. Once harvested, grain became flour. Flour became bread. This simple transformation powered medieval civilization. Bread production did not require luxury tools. Hand mills ground grain, communal ovens baked loaves. Entire villages depended on shared resources to turn grain into food. Every family had a relationship with bread. Dough was prepared at home, often shaped by hand, and baked in ovens shared by the community. The smell of bread was a daily presence in medieval life. Bread was not a side dish, it was the foundation of every meal. Soups were poured over bread, cheese was eaten with bread. Even meat, when available, was stretched further by eating it alongside bread. The wealthy enjoyed softer, lighter loaves made from refined flour. The poor ate darker, heavier bread filled with bran and coarse grain. Some loaves were so dense they could last for days without spoiling. Yet despite these differences, bread united all social classes. It was eaten at dawn before work, it sustained laborers in the fields, it closed the day at night. Medieval energy came from bread. Long hours of physical labor demanded fuel, and bread provided it consistently. Bread was also predictable. Unlike hunting or fishing, grain harvests could be planned. Bread brought order to daily life. In a world where uncertainty ruled, bread offered routine. That routine shaped medieval culture. Meals followed the availability of bread. Work schedules revolved around baking days. Even religious fasting considered bread essential. Bread was not optional, it was necessary. Without bread, the medieval table was empty.
Money was scarce in medieval society. Coins existed, but they were unevenly distributed and often unreliable. Many transactions did not involve money at all. Instead, bread became a form of currency. Workers were paid in bread. Servants received daily loaves as part of their wages. Travelers carried bread as protection against hunger. Families measured wealth not in coins, but in stored grain. Bread was exchangeable, valuable, and trusted. Because of this, bread held political power. Cities closely regulated bread production. Laws controlled the weight and price of loaves. Bakers were monitored. Punishments were severe for cheating. Why such strict control? Because when bread became scarce or expensive, unrest followed. History records countless bread riots. When people could not afford bread, they protested, they attacked bakeries, they challenged rulers. Leaders understood a simple truth: control bread and you control stability. Kings and councils stored grain to prevent famine. Bread shortages threatened authority itself. Bread was also used to demonstrate generosity. Distributing bread to the poor earned loyalty. Denying it invited rebellion. In medieval society, bread symbolized justice. Fair bread prices meant good leadership. High prices meant corruption or failure. Even armies marched on bread. Soldiers required constant grain supplies. Without bread, campaigns failed. Bread fed labor, loyalty, and power. It was not merely eaten, it was managed. Religion shaped medieval thought, and bread occupied a sacred place within it. Bread appeared in prayers, rituals, and religious teachings. It symbolized nourishment, humility, and divine provision. Churches distributed bread to the poor. This act was not charity alone, it reinforced spiritual order. Bread linked faith to survival. Sharing bread represented unity. It connected communities. It affirmed belonging. For medieval believers, bread carried meaning beyond the physical. It was a reminder of dependence, not just on land, but on divine will. Harvests were blessed. Grain was prayed over. Bread was respected. Even scarcity held spiritual meaning. Hunger tested faith. Bread restored hope. This connection made bread deeply emotional. Losing bread meant more than hunger. It meant fear, shame, and uncertainty. Gaining bread meant relief, dignity, and life. Faith and bread were inseparable. When bread vanished, medieval life collapsed. Crop failures led to famine. Grain stores emptied. Prices rose beyond reach. Families sold land, tools, and freedom to survive. Hunger weakened bodies. Disease spread quickly among the starving. Mortality rose. Bread shortages erased social order. Desperation replaced obedience. Parents skipped meals so children could eat. Communities fractured. Violence followed scarcity. History remembers these moments not as minor hardships, but as defining catastrophes. Without bread, medieval society could not function. That is why bread was not simply food, it was life itself. Today, bread is one choice among many. It sits quietly on shelves, unnoticed. But in the medieval world, bread meant tomorrow.
It meant strength, order, and survival. Its presence brought stability. Its absence brought fear. Bread fed the body, shaped society, and held communities together during the hardest centuries of human